What's up, it's Izzy here. I'm doing another top 10 list of some of my favorite cards. This time I'm going to run through it a bit quicker. Last time I took some time to talk about each individual card a little more in depth. This time I'm just going to kind of graze over them. Also, happy holidays, by the way. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Whatever applies to you. Hope your day's going well. Alright, starting out, I have Ojama Red, but he's kind of representing the Ojama archetype. That's one of my favorite archetypes. So a lot of the time, if you catch me on Yugioh Pro or just talking about any kind of cards or strategies that I come up with, a lot of the times they include Ojamas because they're they're a versatile engine that can be used for discard fodder. That can be used for XYZ, synchro. I imagine that link summoning, they can contribute pretty decently to that. I'm not very familiar with link summoning, so I might get back into the game since they're adding that new rule where you don't need a link monster in order to bring in all of your extra deck monsters. So I'm kind of excited about that. Alright, next card. Stronghold Guardian is a monster that you discard and one of your monster gain 1500 defense. It's just one of those shock cards that nobody would ever expect people to run. Like, yeah, you do lose a monster, but and I play a defensive play style usually when I'm building my decks. I go from defense to offense, and this is a good card to help preserve my monsters sometimes, because sometimes they just need that little extra push to survive. And he increases their defense by 1500. Next up is Elemental Hero Neo Bubbleman. No, I'm just playing around. That card sucks. You tribute your regular Bubbleman with Metamorphosis to special summon it, and then a monster that it battles get destroyed at the end of the damage step. That's just extra. But a card that's similar to it without going neg 2 is Bullblader. And when an attack is declared involving this card and an opponent's monster, you can activate this effect during the battle involving that monster. Neither player takes any battle damage. Also, destroy the opponent's monster after the battle damage. So it's like Neo Bubble Man without all of its downsides. You don't need 2 extra cards to bring it out. You don't take any battle damage, and it destroys the monster at the end of damage calculation. So it's a card that I used to run with just to kind of help me clear stronger monsters. I'm pretty sure it's kind of slow in most people's experience, but for me, it's a card that I like. Next is Meteor Flare. This is another one of those cards that you can use multiple times throughout a duel. You activate it by discarding 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard while your opponent has more than 3,000 life points. Inflict 2,000 to your opponent. If this card is in your graveyard, you can add it to your hand instead of conducting your normal draw during your draw phase. So this is a card I played around with in a couple different decks. It can be fun and burn focused decks, but most burn focused decks don't really have the option to just be discarding for the effect of 1 card. So that's using 3 cards for 2,000 damage. But again, like a random card to throw into my Jama deck, if I have like an Oja Magic and something else that benefits from being in the graveyard, that Oja Magic will let me draw 3 cards. I'm inflicting 2,000 damage, and then I also got my graveyard set up with the other card, which is usually some kind of light card that I get benefits from being there, like Fairy Tale Snow, or I made a mix with the Blue Eyes engine, so you can send the tuners to the graveyard and they all do different cool things. And then instead of your draw phase, you can add it back to your hand. That's an option. So like if you have a deck that does like a lot of potent searching, this is a card that you could consider running. Next up is Notorious Sacred Tree. This card, if it's sent to the graveyard, add a Notoria card from your deck to your hand except another Sacred Tree. You can only use one of the following effects once per turn. Tribute one Earth Insect type monster to special summon one Earth Plant type monster, or tribute one Earth Plant type to special summon one Insect type monster from your deck. So it's pretty self-explanatory. I think it works really well with like Trap Tricks. I had a Trap Tricks, Notoria, and Arrow Mage combination deck, and that card worked really well in there. If I needed to switch out, and because a lot of the Notoria insects and plant type cards, they have responsive effects, or they do different things to protect, or if your opponent does this, you do that. And then like the Trap Tricks is they get something when they're special summoned to the field or normal summoned. So it was a card that I played with a lot there. And then like the Arrow Mages, it gained a lot of advantage. So a lot of the time I'd find myself in a situation where I had more cards than I knew what to do with, and I had big beefy monsters on the field and debuffed monsters on my opponent's side of the field. And then with the Arrow Mage Synchro monster, it would, I believe it negates effects or something. I haven't ran it in a while, but yeah, I had something going there. It was random and nobody would expect it. So, you know, it was always fun when I got to pull it off. Next up is Fire King High Avatar Garunix. This came out in the Fire King deck, and I don't know a person alive who hasn't experimented with Fire Kings, because especially with him and Sacred Phoenix, Nepenthes. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but this one, when it's destroyed by a card effect during the next standby phase, it's special summoned to your side of the field, and it blows up all monsters on the field. On the flip side of the coin, with the Sacred Phoenix, when it's destroyed by a card effect, it special summons itself during your next standby phase and destroys all spell and traps on the field. So you can keep like a loop of them destroying cards on the field, and if your opponent doesn't have a response for it, you know, it's always fun. Dark Dust Spirit is similar to Garunix in the sense that he blows up all monsters on the field, but they do have to be face up. He is a tribute, a monster that requires a tribute because he can't be special summoned. He's a spirit, so he returns to your hand at the end of the turn. Back in the day, one of my favorite strategies was to tribute set him face down, and then, you know, just kind of keep him there and let my opponent decide if they're going to attack into it, or if I was ready to go on the offensive, I would flip him up, blow up all face-up monsters, summon my next card, and go into whatever I need to do. Then it returns to my hand, so, you know, I got him to use again in the future, as long as it's uninterrupted. Alright, now this guy. Saito's Corrupted Nether Soul Dragon. It is a level 10 Dark Dragon Synchro monster. It requires a Dark Tuner and a non-tuner Dragon type monster. Cannot be destroyed by battle. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can activate this effect. This card can make a second attack on an opponent's monster in a row during your standby phase. Target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Its attack becomes half its current attack, and if it does, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack points lost. So it has that option of just like beating over everything twice, and can't be destroyed by battle, and also it inflicts damage during your opponent's turn. During your standby phase, you can inflict effect damage. I haven't used it in a while, but I used to run it in like my Dark Wing spam deck, my zombies, Infernities. I had a combination deck with the Infernities and the zombies, which was weird, but then you throw in a couple of light sworn to help with the milling. And, you know, a lot of fun things came from that. This is Fortune Tune. Now, this isn't like a top favorite of mine. It's just, you know, at the time it was a choice for a rank 3 monster, and I grew to have some appreciation for it because it let me recycle 2 monsters from my graveyard. It gave me life points every turn. It wasn't destroyed by battle, and I believe it returned itself to the extra deck, so it was another reoccurring card. It just kind of, you know, if it filled a simple void, and it also could provide, you know, some protection if needed, or some life point recovery, or some card recovery. Heavy Duster Storm goes without saying. It's a Twin Twister as a trap without a cost. Except you can't conduct your battle phase. I'm sorry, there is a cost. You can't conduct your battle phase if you activate it. That's not supposed to be in there. But Blue Eyes is pretty cool. And last but not least, we have Fortune Lady Earth. This card's attack and defense is equal to its level times 400. During your opponent's standby phase, increase the level of it by 1. When this level increases, inflict 400 to your opponent. So it starts out with 2400, gains 400 every level, and then inflicts 400. Alright, that's it for now. Hope you guys liked the video.